Welcome to A People's Guide to Publishing once again. I am your host, Joe Beal, the autistic publisher, and this is Ellie Blue, the sane voice of reason.
And this is Ruby, the dog. On this episode of our vlogcast, we're going to talk about what kind of submissions are we looking for, how do we handle submissions, what is the industry standard, and how is what we do different, and kind of what are our words of wisdom about both submitting books and, from a publisher's perspective, acquiring books.
Probably, quite literally, our most frequently asked question. How do I get published? The most common practice is to have a window of submission period wherein you say, we are going to have an exhausting few months of accepting submissions, reading submissions, contemplating submissions, probably have a committee that looks at all those submissions, and just have a sort of an intensive period of figuring out what we're going to acquire for the next year or two. Or, if you're a certain type of small or medium press, you would have, you'd basically have somebody that reads for 80 hours a week to sort of assess the quality of the work. Or if you are at a larger house, you would probably have, that work just distributed amongst people, and you'd have a pretty solid filter to prevent a lot of people from submitting. So, for example, you would take submissions primarily through an agency, or if you were taking genre work, you would, sort of have just a very clear-cut way of accepting or not accepting submissions.
So how do we do it at Microcosm?
How do we do it? Thorough set of instructions on our frequently asked questions page of our website, and we tell you exactly what we want from you. We expect you to follow those directions and to read those directions as part of following them. Unfortunately for some people, essentially the request that you tell us the emotional payoff of your book in 5 seconds, which sort of requires you to familiarize yourself with the existing books that are in print and to understand how your book is both similar and different. Why are comps important? So, as Richard T. Williams said on a podcast that I listened to, recently, the thing about comps is, there's literally millions of books in print. And so part of it is the comps tell you, one, that there is an audience, and B, who that audience is. And with millions of books in print, if there are actually no books like yours, it does paint a rather curious question, why not? But the other thing is that with millions of books in print, there's only so much shelf space. Your book, to be successful in the marketplace, has to displace another book. There's no other way. There aren't going to be more stores, that sell enough of your books that have never sold books before. You have to sort of edge out an older title. That the reason that you want your book to be similar to existing books is to sort of associate yourself with success from the get-go. Publishing is gambling, so you just want to be a much more informed gambler by doing your comp research of seeing what other books are in print, seeing what books someone might buy in addition to or instead of your book.
So I'm going to dial this back a second. So most publishers, when you submit your book, they want you to have either already finished the book or to have a book proposal, which usually consists of an annotated table of contents, 2 chapters, a marketing plan, and your bio, which shows your expertise and ideally your existing track record selling a lot of books. And these, obviously it takes a long time to write a book, and it also takes a long time to write a book proposal. In my experience, writing the book proposal takes longer because it's
right.
The pressure is on. You're not writing it for the reader, you're writing it for the publisher. So we only ask you to literally send us 3 sentences, who you are, your 5-second elevator pitch for your book, and what books that we already publish or sell well that your book is comparable to or competitive to. And why do we do that?
Because that is, it's a respect of the author's time. You don't want to chew up as much time as a typical proposal would take. But you also want the author to be fluent and familiar with their field. Nothing is worse than, I want to make a lot of money. Let's make a lot of money together, because it really doesn't illuminate that they've done any research. And then additionally, you want an author that can sort of create a category killer that is summarizes the best of all the existing work, but has sort of a new niche or a new bent or twist or frame on that subject matter, because you don't want to just rehash. You want the thing to be interesting to the reader.
Why don't we accept full manuscript submissions?
Because that would take many, many, many hours, and we don't have many hours.
It's true. We can't pay somebody to read the slush pile, unfortunately.
And there's just no reason to. It doesn't. So fundamentally, I guess this is the brass tacks. There is no reason, to read the manuscripts. If the book is sellable, if it's publishable, we can make it more awesome than it is presently. If the book is not publishable, there is no reason to make it more awesome, no matter how well written it is, because we wouldn't be able to sell it in the first place. So it, fundamentally doesn't matter how well written it is.
But I think, the real question that I hear most often about this is, if we haven't seen a book, or at least a substantial proposal, how do we know the person is capable of writing the book, or how do we know that they're a good writer? I'm just giving you softballs here.
I'd say that's a hardball, because we don't, Wait, do you have an answer to this question?
Well, yeah.
Uh-oh. Hoodwinked on our own vlogcast.
This is a test. I want to see if you know.
And I failed.
Oh. No, this is all, these are all things that I learned from you, essentially.
Oh, jeez.
Is
dialing it down.
Writing skill isn't what matters. Having been to college and written a terrible senior thesis or
Wait,
a really
didn't you
good
go to
senior
college?
thesis. Yeah, none of that matters.
Oh, okay. Got
In
it.
fact,
But you wrote 8 books.
It's kind of an impediment. That was not something I learned to do in college.
And those books even sold very well. So clearly there must be some substance
This
there.
offer is for you, but not for the
Okay,
readers. I
got
will
it.
let you read my thesis someday if you want, and then you
Alright.
can see what I did not learn in college.
I'll share it with you.
Don't do it. But one thing that we do here is we treat our editorial department as very much part of the production and marketing department.
Yep.
We aren't looking for a great talent. We are looking for somebody with a good idea that they can put a lot of passion and hard work behind and really believe in. And you don't need to have a fancy education. You don't need to be be able to write beautiful prose. You don't really even need to have the skills to write a book, because where would you get those? That's what we bring to the table, is we have an editorial department that is this was your metaphor, the Funk Brothers. We just watched this documentary, Standing in the Shadows of Motown, about the Funk Brothers, who were the uncredited backing band for all of the greatest hits of Motown. Some of the most, some of the musicians who have been heard by the most humans throughout history and who have made their company the most money in history, but who were paid hourly to basically make whatever Marvin Gaye came up with sound good. Mm-hmm. And they really created the sound, and sometimes, the musician would come in and be really talented and really carry it, and they would just play some great beats in the background, and other times the musician would come in and be I guess I have an idea, and they would be okay, here's what we're doing, and they would really carry it along. So we are essentially, our editorial team is the Funk Brothers. We can take your excellent writing and spit and polish it, or we can take your absolutely unformed idea, so long as it's a good one that we can publish, that we think our readers really need and that you're willing to work with us on, and we can help you,
give you an outline.
Yeah, we can give you an outline. We can work with you back and forth, and in the end, you'll end up being a better writer, and there'll end up being a book that needs to exist in the world. And this is not a service where we teach you creative writing. This is more like a Beyonce album where there's lots of different artists working at once and lots of different factors going in.
Mm-hmm.
I feel a little cocky comparing us to a Beyonce album. We're not quite as good as a Beyonce album.
All depends.
We don't have the capital.
Right. But that's the thing, is you don't want capital in an editorial department. You want spit and polish and resolve and passion and good ideas, So you want somebody that's going to give you an honest answer. You don't want somebody that's going to take your book as it is. If anybody agrees to publish your book in the condition that it is in, they are not a publisher.
And it's like a big red flag for us, honestly, when people come to us with a book and they're like, it's ready to go, it just needs to be copy edited and put into layout. And we're like, no.
Has
That's-
never happened.
I think there was one book in my time where it was kind of close to that. Like, I would say The Prodigal Rogerson, like, we copy edited it.
And yeah, he probably put more hours into that before he showed it to us than, our entire staff put into that.
Yeah.
Which is why.
But I would say, like, books often that come to us fully formed, they're like, they might be a fully formed textbook,
Could be.
and they might be a fully formed, like, work of literary nonfiction or memoir, but in order to, like, make the book work for our publishing, we often have to kind of take it apart and put it back together again.
Yeah.
So I would say, a caution to authors coming to any publisher, but especially to us, is, like, if you're completely inflexible in your vision for your book, like, maybe self-publishing is right for you.
Getting published is like the easiest thing ever, and everybody thinks there's a magic trick to it. So to get your book published, go to the bookstore, probably 2 bookstores, look at the shelves, see who is publishing books like yours, evaluate what is actually honestly a book like yours, and make a list of all those publishers. Probably buy those books. Your book would match the readability and general style guide of the other books from that publisher. So, you'd want to be generally familiar with that. Like, if they prefer a very flowery language, you're not gonna have like a business textbook written in bullet points, You're really gonna want to match style because that's what they're known for, that's their relationships, that's their reputation, that's their core competency.
Another caution I would say is, and this is less of a caution and more of like insider knowledge that I feel like more authors should have, but when publishers ask you for comparable titles to your book, the best comparable titles to pitch to them are books that are published like in the last 3 or 4 years, ideally, that are not like huge bestsellers, because you don't know yet if your book is, like, those are always exceptions, and also that are published by similar publishers to the one you're pitching. So, like, for instance, if you're pitching a book to Random House, Penguin Random House, you would want to put your comps as other books by Big 5 publishers. If you're pitching to Microcosm Publishing, we're like a independent midlist, so you might want to give us comps by, say, Abrams, or what are some other examples?
Even Abrams is much bigger than we are,
Yeah,
but it's a similar, like, the sales expectation is similar.
Yeah, or like Chronicle, or like smaller publishers like now I'm totally blanking.
Right. And, the idea being that, like, an independent publisher with a small staff would have comparable sales expectations to another independent publisher with a small staff, whereas, everybody wants to compare their book to, like On the Road, or, there's a number of ones that we get every single week. But, that's not a book that was published in the last 5 years, which automatically rules it out from being a comp. So, like, even though, yes, many people do find their work comparable to the greats, it's just not, because it would not actually compare in terms of sales or orders or expectations.
Yeah, and that, like, the comps really have more to do with, like, marketing and sales, and, like, how we talk about the book to bookstores and to distributors, rather than, like, how readers would compare it.
And mostly it's like a multiple choice test of seeing if you're paying attention and if you're doing the homework. We don't actually just use the comps that you provide to us. It's more like we're making sure that you understand the fundamental points of the exercise.
Yeah, and we don't need you to be an expert in it. We don't need you to, like, personally figure out which imprint is an imprint of Penguin Random House and which one is a small press or which one is a midlist. But we do just want you to know that we want to know that you know what else is out there on your topic. We want to know that you've, like, actually read those books and can make an informed decision about what to put in yours.
Because if you're writing about herbalism, we would expect that you have read other books about herbalism, if for no other reason than your own personal interest and excitement.
If you either believe and or say that your book has no comparable titles, that's also a major red flag.
That means it is unpublishable.
Unfortunately so. So keep digging and or change your plan until you are part of an ecosystem that you can speak knowledgeably about.
Mm-hmm.
And then come to us. We'd love to check out your 5-second pitch.
Thank you.
How do people pitch to us?
They go to microcosmpublishing.com/FAQ, And then you go down, or you click on the button that says, I want to submit a manuscript, and then you read the instructions. And then there's a button that says, submit your manuscript from the top. And then you do that, and then you fill a little form where you type in your 5-second pitch, and you explain the emotional payoff that your book provides, and you tell us some comps that we've published.
And if we're interested or if we want to see more, we'll get back to you right away, like within the next few days or week. You won't have to wait very long.
And sometimes we have to pass it around to like 3 or 4 people, but even that doesn't take very long because, honestly, that's like one of the more exciting parts of the job. And, and it's like we do offer pitch feedback for people that request it. And so that's another option if you want it. Because, really, we're going to be looking at something maybe not in an identical way to another publisher, but with the same kind of considerations, about like if the book is publishable.
Sometimes we'll really love a book, but it won't be right for us, and if so, we'll try our best to point you in the right direction for other publishers that could do better with it.
And if it's someone we have a relationship with, we just, straight away forward it, because they will often know if something's right for them or...
So good luck with your manuscript, or if you work at a publisher and you're sitting there with a pile of manuscripts that you actually have to read all the way through before next week. Extra good luck.
Well, thank you for joining us once again for A People's Guide to Publishing. Join us again next week where we talk about a topic that we decide on that morning. Have a good one.